fill-ins here with us this morning. It's Chris Berg. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And Lori Cookstrom. Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, tell me a little about your duties. I'll start with you, Chris.
Okay, I'm a lead officer on shift 1, so I work day shift 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. My responsibilities are patrol officer duties as well as filling in for the lieutenant in his absence. So I would be considered like a sergeant in other departments, but we have the title of lead officer here.
How did that happen to be?
That happened, I think, many
95?
years ago.
Back in 95, I think, when the restructuring happened.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you out on the street as a lead officer?
Yes, sir.
So then do they have to come to you for anything in specific?
Yep, I can help the lieutenant. If things are really busy, I can start taking on additional duties. If they're off on vacation or just off in general, then I take over the shift commander duties for that day.
Okay, there's 3 titles there. The lead, lieutenant, shift. The difference is what you're doing, I guess, at
Correct.
the time of day. Okay. One is a rank and one is a duty.
Yes.
So shift commander is above lead officer?
Yes, that would be the level of the lieutenant.
Okay. And is there one for every shift?
Yes, we have 4 lieutenants for patrol shifts, and then there'd be a 5th lieutenant would be the detective lieutenant.
Do you have as lead, do you have a, how do I say, area? I mean, when you're on patrol, do you divide during a shift?
Yes.
Do you divide the city into quadrants?
Yes, we do southwest, northwest, southeast, and southwest. Or did I miss one?
Yeah.
I got that all mixed up, but
You got to
we can
go
have a
like
good
this in
laugh.
the air so you can.
Yeah, southwest, northwest, northeast, southeast.
Okay, so is there any, how do I say, rules as to stay in your territory, or?
No, officers have the whole city to patrol. They just don't have to stay in that sector. Basically, those sectors are assigned for calls of service. So dispatch should dispatch that officer to any calls of service in their assigned area. If we're busy though in that sector on another call, then we just start filling in. So it doesn't really matter that you have a sector. If that officer's busy, you're going to get called there.
I'll ask you the same thing I asked Gramza and Gary Jepson. Why 2 at a time? Whenever there's a call, it seems like one person and then there's another car shows up.
We concentrate on officer safety. The saying is safety in numbers. Sometimes you might see a 3rd officer or a 4th officer depending on the situation.
Do you head that way not knowing what it is even? I mean, because if you had something that looked, where the officer who pulled somebody over would say, 10 code of some kind or something like that, that would be able to have somebody roll that way.
Right.
That looks suspicious.
On traffic stops, after doing a records check, you might find the person has a warrant, or you might find there's other circumstances like from dealings in the past with that individual that you should probably call for a 2nd officer. There's general calls that dispatch knows, like disturbances, bar fights, bank alarms. There's all sorts of things dispatch, and officers, just as they get experience, know, hey, it's a 2-man call minimum. Sometimes you're going to know it's a 3-man call. Just if you hear the name of a certain individual from past dealings with them, you know that it could be turn bad real quick.
Or like you said, with a bar fight, if you've got multiple people involved with the bar fight, 2 officers isn't going to be enough. And then that's where Wood County Sheriff's Department, they're listening to the radio traffic, and they'll start heading that way also as backup.
Talking with Lori Crookstrom here. Describe your part in the department?
Well, my title, official title, is Administrative Services Supervisor. It's changed throughout the years. Originally, I was hired 35 and a half years ago as a dispatcher, and then 10 and a half years after that, I did replace Barb Fleisner as Staff Services Supervisor back then. So I am the first-line supervisor of all the civilians or the support staff at the police department. So the police record secretaries, the custodian, the ordinance control / humane officers. I have park patrol. I have the summer parking officer that goes downtown and does the parking down there, transport officers, all the adult crossing guards, so all the civilians.
I didn't realize there were that many when you
There
started
are.
naming them off. I think of the auxiliary once in a while, as people who are uniformed but, unarmed, but they're there to be another set of eyes and official, that's why they put them in a uniform. But I didn't realize there were so many other people around, too.
Oh, gosh, yeah. The record secretaries, the police record specialists make sure that the officers' reports are done correctly, making them sound good, make sure all the elements of the crime are listed in the report. They do review them after the girls type them up. But yeah, and then they have data entry duties. The drug cases have to be entered into the state database. Nowadays we have what's called incident-based reporting. So every little piece of an incident, multiple crimes could be included in an incident. So all those have to be reported and documented. So they are doing that on a daily basis. They have to get reports to the district attorney's office by 10 a.m. in the morning if we have it in custody during the nighttime. The humane officers, of course, are busy with animal control. They also do parking. They do other ordinance enforcement of junk and garbage in the areas. Let's see. Of course, adult crossing guards, everybody knows what they do. They're out there morning and afternoon to protect our children in the school zones. So they're off now. They finished up last week, Friday. And we do have summer school starting next week, Monday. So there will be a few of them out by Grant School.
How do you do that do they have to find somebody when they're on vacation or can't make it, or do you have
They
to?
usually give me plenty of notice when they have doctor's appointments or vacation time. We do have 11 spots that we have for crossings, and of those, so we have 11
at any given day,
full-timers.
there's 11 full-time?
11
I
full-timers.
didn't realize there were that
Yeah,
many.
yeah. Some of the schools have 3 adult crossing guards because of the heavy traffic in the area. Like Grant School, we have 3 of them over there. We have them up on the hill, up by the cemetery, because that's a huge intersection. Even though there's stop signs there, you got multiple lanes. It's just really hard for kids to get across safely.
That's blocks from the school, though.
That's up the hill from the
Yeah.
school, yeah.
And you put one there, too.
Yep,
huh?
one's up there, one's right there. We had a mom call in like 2-3 years ago, really concerned about the pedestrian traffic at Oak and Upham there, right at the stop sign. And we found the need. The chief at the time determined, yep, let's put a crossing guard there. So we have that one, and then directly across at Walnut and Upham, we have a crossing guard there who just retired after 20 years.
That's how do you find and get people who are like fill-ins?
Yeah,
because if you don't do it all the time,
Yep. We have currently 4 substitutes that work either half-time or they are on call when I need them. I give them a call. Some of them like morning, some of them like afternoon. So it's been working out really well. And if I don't have anybody available, then ordinance will cover the crossings as needed. So that happens few times a year.
And in worst case scenario, a patrol officer could handle those duties too.
Mm-hmm.
Talking with Lori Crookstrom, Chris Berg here, Marshfield PD. You can too this second Friday in June, 384-2192, 384-2192. I'm learning a lot about what's going on in the background. One thing I thought, though, as you were talking about all the records and getting things to the DA, have you seen less paper in your time?
No. I
Because
don't
it
know
used to
how,
be-
there are some departments out there that are paperless. I don't know how that can be.
Oh.
You know, it's,
You got to have file cabinets upon file cabinets full of stuff there.
We don't have that many file cabinets. We try and keep a couple years records up in the records area. We hang on to records for 10 years. After that, and we also have them backed up on either microfilm, the really old ones, or the last several years we've been using the scanning function.
Who does all of that?
We have had a summer helper previous years. It's usually started off with a high schooler, and then off into college, and then we've determined now we've got some pretty quick little employees, not little ones, but quick employees that we've been, when there's quiet time, we will start doing the scanning in as we have time. So
You know better than that. Now that'll be a regular job for you.
if the need happens where we have to go back to a summer helper, we will. So, but we're going to try it this year with budget crunches and everything. We kind of
that's true. There was,
made that determination.
All the times that I've talked with the mayors and Steve Varg at the city administration and that big debacle on the budgetary things that they did, I would imagine this is the first time I've heard somebody say, we had to cut back somewhere.
Yeah, we cut back, and we cut back a squad for this year too. So.
In purchase or in
purchase?
Yeah, in purchase.
So there's one less on the street?
Well, we're actually doing is one of the other squads had lower mileage on, so we figured we were good in being able to stretch that out. And
Oh, I see. You saved on the vehicle itself, not necessarily the shift.
Right.
I see. Talking with Chris Berg and Lori Crookstrom of Marshfield PD. Parking. In this city, we don't have meters.
Nope.
Just watching signs. What do you do?
Yeah, our city ordinance does list the times when we are able to get out and start marking downtown. It usually starts about 9 o'clock in the morning. We will start marking tires, except we are now in a new program where you might see the yellow chalk mark, you might not, depending upon if it's our summer helper or if it's our ordinance officers. Technology nowadays is just crazy, where they can do a recording on their telephone showing where the valve stem is on this right rear tire. And if it hasn't moved in 3 hours, then they know they can write a parking ticket.
How often does that happen?
Oh, they're out there. Well, I'm not going to give away all my secrets. I want to keep them honest. And that's ultimately our goal, is we want people, if they are downtown users, living downtown, we want them to come in and purchase a parking permit. That way they are legally parked in a parking lot, and we leave those alone. So that's our ultimate goal, is compliance.
Well, tell me how that works now. Which lots? Any lot?
Yep, pretty much
any lot. You have to have, in
lot.
order to be an overnight parker in a lot, you have to have a permit?
Yep, an overnight tenant parking. Sometimes it can be a daytime permit, it can be a nighttime permit, it can be an annual permit, it can be what's called tenant, which is day and nighttime. And yeah, most of the downtown parking lots have signs that'll say permit parking only or tenant parking. So those are spots that are kind of reserved in those parking lots for those people that have the permits. And in the city, we are a first come, first served basis. So they're not assigned. At the time that they are purchased, they are not assigned a specific lot.
So it's not free parking every spot. It's just some that are marked, that are saying...
Well, and it's not free because they're purchasing a permit.
Well, they are, but I mean for the rest of us, the city touts free parking downtown.
Yep, free, but it's with time limited. So the Main Street, they want people coming in and going out. They want their customers to have access. So most of the parking lots are 3-hour parking. Some are 90 minutes. So every parking lot is signed by the city, though. So we
What are the street recommendations? I mean, like Central or whatever. How long can you stay there?
I don't know if that's 90 minutes. It's been a while since I've actually looked out there.
That one might just be
Is that marked?
between a certain time, and then I think that is...
And then
I
think
see.
After 6 o'clock, then it's...
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and now
from-
we're in that times frame of the year where you can park on the street. You don't have to get off the street because of snow removal.
Right.
Yeah, so summertime you can do overnight parking
Yep.
on streets?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, because not every city is that way.
Nope.
But, okay.
We tried a couple years ago doing the opposite side
Yeah.
on the odd day and even side on the even day, and it just was so confusing for the citizens. So
Oh my gosh. Really?
it was.
Well, they just didn't want to. That's why, because it's inconvenient. Talking with Chris Berg and Lori Krokstrom from the Marshfield Police Department here about what happens in the building down there. The cameras, how has that changed your job at all? Do they do all that, the officers themselves, or do you do
The
that?
body cams and squad cameras, the system we're using now has saved me a lot of work. I used to have to burn to DVD and CD individuals, and took up an immense amount of my time. Now with this digital world, it's so much easier. The officers code their cameras, their videos, with the incident number of the call that they're on. So it's my job after the incident, if it's going to the district attorney's office or to the city attorney, I will compile all the videos, the photos, and I will put them together into a digital case file, and then I can just send them off. So
Well, I don't want to miss that compile part of it, because you've got individual body, you've got car, you've got how many different angles
yeah,
do you
you
have?
got photos, you got people sending, uploading to you guys the
Yeah, there's a really nice feature with axonevidence.com. I can send a link to a citizen, and they can upload me evidence. If they took photographs or video of something, it goes right to evidence.com then for me to review at the police department. So it's really efficient.
By you sending them a link,
Yes.
and then they reply to that with their
Yep.
attachments.
Yep, they can slide up as many photos as they got into the little window it gives you, or videos, and then they hit the button and it comes right to the cloud where it's stored, secured.
Do you, for law court purposes, have to determine who that was from? I mean, you have to keep track of. I mean, the lawyer's going to ask who took that video.
Yep, and that should all be documented in the officer's report. And as well as when I send that link, there's information of the person. right up-
metadata.
Yep, the date of birth and everything. That goes right with everything that was uploaded.
How along the way did it scoop that up?
I think the user has to put that information
Yeah.
in.
Okay.
Yep.
So how much of this stuff actually goes? I mean, on a daily basis, not very little of it actually goes to the DA,
Correct.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of prosecutable stuff. It's mostly fender benders and people banging into one another and, getting their toes run over. And
But I think when an agency starts using body cameras and squad cameras, the insurance companies know this, so they start asking for information on crashes. They want to see the photos, so they send me their information, and I have to send them the link for the photographs, because we don't want to print any of those out anymore. We just send them the link.
yeah, I guess keep it in the digital world, and you don't have a lot of printing and business time that you.
Oh, it saves me a lot of time.
Yeah, I would imagine so. So, how other things have changed over the years?
In my 35 years of the police department, dispatch, of course, changed. We used to have our own dispatch center. Now we are being dispatched by the Wood County Shared Dispatch Center, which is its own department. It is not part of the sheriff's department. That was one thing the city of Marshfield and the city of Wisconsin Rapids made sure at the time of the inception of the Shared Dispatch Center that happened, that it be its own department overseen by the Traffic and Safety Board at the county level. And then we also have a central records group that meets occasionally to discuss any issues about dispatch or records management system, because we are on a countywide records management system.
Meaning that it's accessible by all, or
Yes.
as a central database?
It is accessible by all law enforcement within Wood County, can see each other's records.
Are there many interagency calls? Is there a lot of stuff that goes that way where?
I think so.
There's the occasional mutual aid calls. We just assisted Wood County with that individual, the
Alton.
shooting individual. So we do help each other often. I would say more often than not.
Yep.
for a mutual aid request.
Okay. That's something the fire department, they are a lot more adept at that because there's contracts that go outside the city and other things like that. But you guys is kind of on a call basis, or?
They get the requests, dispatch will get the request from like Marathon County Dispatch asking for assistance to go out to an alarm up in McMillan Township if their deputy's half an hour away type thing, so.
Could be a crash on Highway 97.
That's a good
for
one.
Marathon. Wood County the same. If they're all tied up and they have a major crash, we might be going out there to help them with that.
How would I say this? Difficult, or what's it like having a county being part of the city in a different county? I mean,
Counties.
Yeah, because when they took the guy in from the Walmart parking lot, it's Marathon County Court. They take him that way to Wausau.
Right. And we do catch each other when we're making an arrest. It's like, hey, we're in Marathon, so we got to remember that on that side of the line.
Put him in your car, not mine.
Yeah, right.
Well, and it's the same thing with coroner calls,
Yep.
if we have a death, which coroner's got to be called. So dispatch helps with that too, but juvenile runaways, it's like, okay, doesn't go to Wood County Human Services,
Right.
it's got to go to Marathon County Human Services. So
It's kind of unique being split like that, the city.
Yeah, I would imagine that in your department, in your world, the more of a headache than.
the officers have to put on the report. It's going to Marathon. On occasion, the girls in records do catch that. Oh, this should have been Marathon County, and a lot of times it's split. It goes to both. There might be an incident that happens here, but the arrest happens with extra curricular activity maybe up into Marathon County, so that part would go to Marathon, and the original incident.
Well, something simple like a fender bender in the parking lot. You guys get the call because it's in the city, but then it's prosecuted or it's sent to a different.
Yeah, if there's citation. But we also have municipal court, so a lot of our citations go to municipal court rather than to.
And that's nice that,
Yes.
that they handle both Wood and Marathon for municipal level.
Talking with Chris Berg and Lori Krokstrom here on today's Insight program. You can too, 384-2192, live here this second Friday of the month. I say that, if you're listening on radio, but if you're watching us on video here, this could be at any time in the future. 384-2192 on today's Insight program. WDLB's Insight program here this second Friday in the month of June already. Time is going by. Speaking of that, we're talking with MPD here, Marshfield Police Department members, Lori Krokstrom from the administration in the office, and lead officer Chris Berg here today. The parks and things get busy in the summertime. You need auxiliary once in a while called in. There's parades. There's things. Does that change your workload much?
No, not me. We actually have two officers that are the liaisons with the auxiliary, so it kind of helps them with some administrative duties. So it's usually a 2-year stint, and then it's from assistant, then you go to be the lead liaison. So those are the civilians. I don't supervise those, but I get requests and I send them their way for things.
I was when you were listing off all the people in the building there, I caught custodian. I've never thought about him.
Yeah, we got to have a building, and with COVID the last couple of years, that was a lot of cleaning, a lot of, we actually had one of our prior lieutenants come up with the idea of if you can leave a door open, leave it open so nobody has to touch the handles all the time. So we propped some doors open in our building that, didn't hurt security at all. But yeah, a lot of doorknobs, light switches. We went to some of those automatic lights, which are not cheap. You know, when you walk into
Yeah,
a room and the light
motion
goes on.
sense.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we did a lot of that. So
Do you have to sign off on his time card?
yeah, I do. But he's also responsible for the police impound building, the Baltus building now across the street. He does things over there, out at the police range. So it's not just our building, but all the police department property.
Over the past couple of years, they've talked, did a study or whatever about that building that you're in, the law enforcement building,
Yes.
whether they could push it out to the parking lot, or now they've decided that they would take that. I'm not sure, because I'm not in on the meetings, but that whole area, people have asked me, they said, what are they going to do with that, all the way from the city garage up through that? What do they want to put there?
They want to put apartments there.
That's what I wanted to have Six Flags, but they didn't go for that for some reason.
Yeah, I saw the rendering. It looks pretty cool. My concern is the price. You know, we have such a limited number of low-income housing the way it is in our city that our city needs to have more of those to get people into an apartment, and it's just, yeah. But no, I was part of that facility study, and I was surprised when they said we were going to renovate or whatever. And I actually think to this point, and I've told Chief Jody that I think we're past the point of renovating our building cost-wise, and because we were really close to, it would be cheaper to build rather than to renovate because of our old existing equipment in our building. So, I mean, the building was built back in 1981 to 83.
Having been in the workforce since then, that doesn't seem like a long time ago, but it is.
Oh, technology, we have one jack in each office that you can hook your computer to. So you are limited on how you actually can sit in your office and operate to have your communications. So it's...
Wouldn't that be easier to be changed than build a building?
Not really, because we also have all the other infrastructure that needs to be done. Our air handlers, the big exchange units down in the basement, those are huge costs. Our roof, we need a new roof on our building. Those Carlisle membrane roofs are only supposed to last about 15 to 20 years. We're pushing 25 right now. We've had some leaks. So it's just, we're aging.
What is in the Baltus building?
That is storage for our squad cars that overflow instead of sitting outside. They go in there. We have detective vehicles that go in there. We also share it with City Garage and Parks and Recreation. They have some of their buildings or equipment in there.
Okay. I was wondering what the city was using it for at this point, because they were talking about needing some space, but it makes sense. I guess what would it be? The west end of that building where the garage is on the law enforcement building isn't very big.
No.
When it was built, it seemed like, were there that few cars? Or
I think I can remember working dispatch, and I had 3 officers on the road. That was it. A north car, a south car, and a prowl car. And then I probably had either a sergeant or a lieutenant who didn't take calls. They were just there to supervise. So yeah, from our minimum staffing now is 4 minimum, if not 5, preferred for on the road because of the 2-man calls for safety. Our garage doors on our garage, the vehicles made nowadays are so much bigger. These guys probably have 1 inch to 2 inches on each side when they're backing in. So it's...
I wouldn't think the wheelbase was that much bigger than what it used to be.
Oh, yes, it has. Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty tight squeeze.
Well, you're using, pickup trucks and SUVs now instead of using the old Interceptors.
Impalas and...
Yeah, those were fairly small compared to that. How's that working out?
I absolutely love the SUVs. It gives us plenty of room for equipment. You got up front with me, I got my computer, you got your emergency lights and siren box, the GPS to run the traffic lights, radar unit, and then all the
Shotgun.
other stuff in the back. And behind me I have shotgun, rifle, and it gives you plenty of room for everything. And then
and I think physically getting in and out of the
Right.
vehicle, they have it's been found to be
Yeah.
better on the physicality of, because you got to just get out of those vehicles pretty quick on some of those calls.
And
so.
being in Wisconsin in the winter, that SUV handles nice in the snow, and it's got more weight to it, so safer for the officer.
How has that changed too with the in-car? I mean, you got computer now. I was talking to, I don't remember if it was a sheriff or a police department. Do you have the ability, like when you were doing dispatch, everything was a call, radio. Everything was radio. That was two-way, and that's all there was. You'd run it, then send it back to them and read it back, you know, with the
Yep.
phonetic codes. And now you can run your own stuff.
You can, and it makes things a lot more efficient. And the other thing I like is the mapping system. You can see where all the squads are in the city as well as in the county, all the deputies, their little icons. So you know where everybody's at, and then you can also bring up all the calls for service currently going on, that's going on in the county, and see exactly what deputies or officers might be on, the type of call. You can message with dispatch, so if they have
Keep it off the
something
radio.
that shouldn't be put over the radio, we can message each other that way.
They used to use a scrambler, and now they don't have to anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my Bearcat scrambler, de-scrambler.
Yeah, encryption. We still do have encryption on a couple channels, so.
How much is shared now with radios? I mean, you have to be able to get back and forth from Marathon and Wood, plus fire. How many channels do you have on the radio?
There's quite a few, and each agency has their own channel, but you can scan and set what channels you want to scan. So if I want to hear Wood County Sheriff's Department for sure, to see what they have going on, as well as Marshfield Fire and Rescue, because if I can get going to a call to start assisting paramedics, start CPR on somebody or anything of that sort, I like to be able to hear what kind of med calls they're going out on.
It seems like now it would be more, the two-way would be more advantageous at an incident, where you could talk as opposed to
And they
getting
can.
dispatched.
They can. If it's a larger incident, a bank of the radio, there's like how many banks? 8 banks or something like that?
We have a lot.
And there's a lot of channels on each bank.
Yep.
And we follow the Wood County Emergency Management incident command structure. So there's IFERN, there's all the different zones for the fire calls, and so if a big incident, they're following the standard, and dispatch will say go to this channel for your incident, so that we're not eating up all the other space.
Right.
Do you have anything at the building there that is a radio for your...
We do not have a base station at our department anymore. It got moved, and it got moved up to the county building by the Norwood facility because of the tower. The new tower that was put up there. Our radio system definitely has to have all the access to the towers. So for being on that countywide radio system, that's where we needed to go.
So what's up on the building there?
We still have our antenna for point-to-point. I think one of those antennas is just a redundant, not used maybe. And then we, of course, do have an antenna for our police channel, so our main channel there. But like I said, it communicates microwave with the tower.
Oh, a repeater type of situation.
Yeah, microwaves, yeah.
Talking with Lori Crickstrom, Chris Berg here from Marshfield PD. 384-2192, 384-2192. We talked a little about parking, and I learned something there today about the lots and downtown, for that matter. And ordinance is something that's what it's referred to in this city, is the ordinance person. Who is there one every shift?
No, we don't. We only have 2 ordinance officers, and on Monday and Saturday, 8 to 4 is their normal schedule, and then Tuesday through Friday would be 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. we would have coverage, unless somebody's on vacation or gone to training or sick. So, and they're also, that's one thing I have noticed has changed a lot is not so much ordinance officers anymore, but they are humane officers. They have gone through state certification to become certified humane officers, and the city has designated both Kayla Wolf and Bob Larson as humane officers, so they have the ability to be able to, if needed, do some criminal complaints for animal neglect or abuse. To make it easier, though, we normally have an officer step in and help with that type of thing. It's just easier at the district attorney's level.
Is that something, it's turning into more of that? What else does ordinance do besides humane?
With the animals, we have right now we're starting with a lot of stray cats. Dogs seem to be picked up quite easily, but other than the animal control side of things, they will make sure people have the licensing required. If we have a dog bite situation or even a cat bite, cat scratch, make sure that they have their rabies vaccinations in order. If not, we will order a quarantine on those animals. They work very closely with MAPS, the Marshfield Area Pet Shelter. That's where we take our stray animals for the 4-day holding period.
Are they out patrolling during the shift, or are they at the office and then go on calls?
All of the above. So if they are caught up on their reports, they'll go out and about, and then they are looking. They check the handicaps a lot, handicap parking. That's a pretty tough, big citation, but they'll do that. Aldermen, citizens will call in with garbage complaints or homes that have a lot of junk.
Yep.
And they will go out and they'll investigate it, give people a warning notice. You know, I'm going to give you 2 weeks to clean up your yard. I'm going to be back in 2 weeks. If not, then we're going to issue a citation, and then I'll give you another warning. So they're big on compliance. They want everybody in the city to be compliant with city ordinances. So we are really strong on that level. We give warnings, we give people time, we work with them. But yeah, that's what they do.
That's most of that. By ordinance, they mean ordinance.
City ordinances.
What would I say? Compliance
Yes.
is what you're.
Yes.
That's why it's called that.
Yep.
But it's turning into more of a humane.
That's why we kind of do slash. We do ordinance control / humane officer. Yeah. Some days it's more ordinance. Some days it's more humane officer.
Are they just in the city? I mean, we've got the MAPS has contracts with other townships that
That's
border.
correct. They do. Mm-hmm.
But they just work in the city.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
because they're city employees.
Yep.
They
Correct.
just go up to the border.
I mean, we might get the occasional call from Southwood County, or the Wood County has a humane officer. She doesn't do quite what we do up here, but she does investigate calls out in the county if she needs assistance. Same thing with patrol, getting calls for mutual aid. We might be asked to assist, so we would.
During the day, like at the office where you work, what do you work on typically during the day?
My day, or the girls out
Well,
front?
everybody
Yeah.
for
Oh.
that matter. What goes on over
Well,
there?
I think everybody checks their emails to see what's come in since they were off, since they last were working. And like the record staff, they just dive into what the officers have transcribed or taped their reports. They compile and collate all the casework, citations, crashes, before they actually are able to sit down and start doing data entry or and that takes up the whole day for them. I mean, we've been short-staffed. It's only been 3 weeks since our newest hire came on board, so we're in the process of training. So that's going there. Bob and Kayla, like I said, they check their emails, start going on calls, follow up if officers did any animal complaints over the nighttime hours. That happens quite a bit that they'll do follow up on, especially on Mondays. Mondays is a busy day for them. Otherwise, yeah, they're out patrolling. When our summer guy is working for our parking downtown, we'll have them mark a second time, so then who's ever working the afternoon shift could actually go out and issue citations too for downtown parking if they're in violation. So it's not just morning time for a citation.
It just seems that way.
Yeah. And my day, It fluctuates. I mean, I was out in records for quite a while, helping out there, and I enjoyed that, working with the public. Now I'm back in my office. My big thing is open records. That has been a huge increase probably in the last 10, 15 years. People know in Wisconsin that they can ask for records, not just themselves, but anybody if they wanted to. So I'm the records custodian, so I do all the open records releases for the city.
I get a kick out of the media reports. We used to call it a police blotter.
Yeah.
All the reports that come in. It's, smacking into somebody in a parking lot. There's a lot of that. People just do stuff without.
I know.
Just bump fender benders, hitting a light pole.
A lot of those big light poles.
Yes.
And it didn't jump in your way. It was there the whole time.
Right.
So, and right now we're working on budgets. We're starting that budget process, so that's going to be going on. I just got notice of a FBI audit that I'll be dealing with in the next couple weeks.
What is that?
The FBI audit is dealing with a program that some of our detectives can use. It's called the Index system. And other than that, every 3 years I get an audit from the State Crime Information Bureau, and that's the Cib Audit, so I'm in charge of that.
What are they auditing?
They audit to make sure that the people and the vehicles we're running queries on through the transaction system nationwide, that we're doing it in the proper way for proper reasons, and make sure everybody's trained the way they're supposed to be trained and nobody has excess control over queries, and make sure our background security system is in place, the network. So not just our network, but our network, how we connect to the county, because like I said, we are a county-wide system. So we share what's called the BadgerNet system, which is the state system, and that's how we connect to the transaction time system.
A few years back, there was property that was hawked or pawned, and there was a system then that was put into place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have a pawn shop here anymore, so I'm not sure if our detective
There
bureau
were a couple at one time.
pawn slips or not. Well, I'm wrong. We still have one in town, but I don't know how much that one is open. But yeah, we're supposed to get these pawn slips, but it's an electronic system now where they're supposed to be documenting who's bringing what in and how long it's being held for.
And that's checked against stolen property?
Yeah, the detectives will do that.
Mm-hmm.
Where is stolen property kept? In the building across the street, or
No, we keep it under lock and key at our department. So
where's evidence kept?
in our lockers, and then from our short-term storage area, the evidence technicians will move it downstairs into the secured area, which was the old break room of dispatch downstairs. And we're starting to run out of room there too, so there's another room that they've taken over for some evidence storage. And again, that's another reason why our buildings, we're outgrowing it.
How long do you have to hold on to stuff?
Some of the stuff we have to keep forever, as mandated
I mean,
by,
I know
by
I watch too
state
much.
statutes.
They always tell you watch too much TV, but I said, well, some of these DNA and reoccurrence, they go back and they get stuff from a decade ago.
Yeah, yeah. State statute changed some things for us. So like sexual assaults, those reports and evidence we have to keep forever now. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And other than that, there's statutes and limitations for certain crimes that people will have the ability, let's say they do get a conviction, they can appeal it, and so that process starts. So we have to hang on to those cases.
How are you flagging that to know what can be tossed and what can be not?
That's what the evidence technicians are trained in, not me.
That's why you need a title, right, as evidence technician.
Yes.
Talking with Chris Berg and Lori Krokstrom here from Marshfield PD, 384-2192 if you'd like to join in here on today's Insight program. You may be watching us on MFLD TV or 989, the digital tier on your Spectrum TV, or you could be watching us online through their website as well. You can access it through the city's website or look for them on their YouTube channel. AM 1450, FM 98.7, WDLB's Insight program. It's the second Friday in June. You know that if you're listening live, or you could be watching us on video here or during several platforms I talked about on the way into break. And you can see what our palatial studio looks like in here. When she first came in, she said, "My gosh, this is small." I said, "Well, it's just me and you." It's not like the TV where they've got to have a set here, where there's, "Let's see the new car." "Tell him what he won, Bob." Nothing. That's all there is here, is just me in the control room. And now we've got screens that look like a cockpit in here, more than even before. Talking about the administration of, that's her place, I guess, over at, and we talked about the building and about where that's going to go, and with growing and different things that are going on. We talked about the different cars and vehicles that just, you both have been with this long enough to see some changes happen over the years. For those that are new to it, you didn't know how it used to be. Sometimes having a basis in knowledge for how it was helps you to understand where you came from.
Absolutely.
On some of these things, and how much easier it is, or what's trying to be accomplished when you make a new system. Sometimes people say, "Well, we should do it this way." Pump the brakes on that. Here's why.
Yeah, you got to think outside how it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that building, there's a holding cell?
We're considered a municipal lockup. I think there's like 3 or 4 in the state. And we just had our juvenile jail inspection not that long ago and passed that with flying colors. But since we lost dispatch and don't have that anymore, so we don't have somebody in the building all the time watching what's going on in the jail cells, we prefer not to keep anybody in there for too long of a period. So ours is book them and head them south, or head them north to Marathon.
You mentioned juvenile. Is there 2 different cells? Are there different setups?
There are different state regulations for dealing with juveniles versus adults. Juveniles, you have to definitely, you cannot like cuff them and put them in, on a chair and leave them alone there for hours. So we try not to do that at all. We're with them all the time that we have a juvenile with us. So that's been our protocol, our policy with our department. The adults are 3 lockup cells, and if we were to have male and female, we do have a dividing door that we would close, and then cell 3 would be available for the female if we needed to put them in, so we can separate by sex too.
Well, now you have to have 3, because in this world, you got 3 cells, 1 of each.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was supposed to be funny. Talking with Lori Crookston.
But it's very true, and
Well,
it can be a sensitive subject that
Yes.
the officers deal with. So
Challenging.
there was a time, we talk now, the fentanyl is a big problem. And there was a time when, a couple of years ago, not even that long maybe, when they said that, when you're going into a car and you're going to look for something, then you put on gloves.
always.
Because you never know what you're going to touch, that could even go through your skin. Some of that stuff is
Correct.
so powerful.
You absolutely need to wear gloves if you're going to do a vehicle search, even a search of a person. You have to protect yourself, and there's some cars that I've searched where you might want to put a mask on to help prevent dust or any other particles that may be in that car from getting in your system, because I'll say it's a very dangerous world right now with that fentanyl coming in and how much is coming across the border.
And nobody knows. I mean, the way they're mixing it, they're selling you one thing, but it might be laced with something else.
Yes, it's it's dangerous.
So a lot of what you do I don't want to say undercover, but in the background, is watching and knowing what's going on or who's coming and going. And I mean, we just had a news today, the man in Southwood County arrested at one time he was arrested and had a search in his house in Sherry, and another time here in Marshfield, and they said he's been in and out most of his adult life. We've had contact with this guy a lot of times.
Correct.
So you don't really know, I mean, what they're dealing with here because they're mixing stuff up and doing things on their own. But, you know, we'd like to think that they come from outside. But there's people right around the area, you know. I'm always amazed that when I look at the report, sometimes you get a good giggle out of it because what people do. But a lot of times it's domestic, what you call domestics, which means people are fighting, or couples are fighting, or there's some sort of call to a home somewhere. And, you know, kids are involved and drugs are involved. And
Mental health and drugs are a lot of the reasons for our disturbances.
Yep, mental health, drugs, alcohol.
yeah, it seems like that's more and more in the reports that I'm reading is how it seems to break down.
Yep.
So I'm glad you both came in. I learned something. I know they was going to send somebody in here from the office, and I said, oh, good. I'd like to talk to her. So thanks for coming on.
Sure.
You
Lori
are very
Krogstrom
welcome.
And Chris Berg here representing Marshfield PD on today's Insight program on WDLB.